One of the cool things about being a Magic designer is I get to make a lot of neat things. I get to make wondrous artifacts. I get to make big, glamorous spells. But probably the thing I like most of all is getting to make characters.
So SRAM is a dwarf. He's the senior edificer of all of Ghirapur. He works for the consulate. It was his job to maintain this living, breathing city. He believes in the consulate, but he's torn now that Tezzeret is in charge. And he ends up in our story helping the renegades just enough to make a difference.
We refer to cards like SRAM, Senior Edificer, as enchantresses. They're kind of typical. There are a lot of cards in Magic's history that have the name Enchantress. There's a Argothian Enchantress, Verduran Enchantress, Mesa Enchantress. What they all have in common is they allow you to draw a card whenever you play an enchantment. It's actually really cool to really reward you for doing the Kaladesh thing. I know that I've been planning to build a SRAM Commander deck for quite some time, too.
All right, so Captain Birol, we know him from Chandra's origin story. He is responsible for killing her father, framing her, actually igniting her planeswalker spark by causing her all this distress. And he is basically Chandra's nemesis. He's here, he's wrapped around Tezzeret's finger, and he's more than willing to activate anytime Tezzeret asks him to tempt Chandra, to push her, to distract her, and he's wreaking havoc around Ghirapur for the duration of the story.
He's the guy that wanted Chandra executed, and he's one of the bad guys behind all this. And to play that up, we kind of wanted, what if you just put him in a really mean deck full of counter spells? So we kind of designed a card that would allow you to play just a ton of counter spells, just say no to everything your opponent did. We gave you the instant sorcery reduction to help you cast more counter spells, and we rewarded you for putting a bunch of counter spells in your deck. So you could say oh, I'm building a Birol deck. Nobody's gonna resolve anything.
Many, many years ago, when Magic's first expansion came out, before I worked at Wizards, there was a card called Cabal Ghoul. For 2 and a black, you got a 1/1 creature that whenever a creature died, you got a +1/+1 counter. I thought that was the most awesome card ever. And I feel like Yahenni really is Cabal Ghoul, but on steroids. So same cost as Cabal Ghoul, but instead of a 1/1, it's a 2/2. Instead of a 1/1, it's a 2/2. Oh, wait. And it has haste. Oh, wait. And you can sacrifice creatures to make it indestructible. So if you ever like Cabal Ghoul, this is like super Cabal Ghoul.
Undy likes having sacrifice decks around in Standard. But we've had some problems with cards like Nantuko being sacrifice outlets that just kill your opponent all in one shot. So we wanted to bring a souped up Nantuko, but it wouldn't kill your opponent in one shot. So it really is good at protecting itself, and kind of as the game progresses, you get to take advantage of the sacrifice outlet. So that's where Yahenni came from.
So Cara Jam is probably my favorite character in this set. Cara Jam is a young skyship captain who is also a pirate, and she has a legendary monkey named Ragavan, and the two of them in the story are actually going to team up with Jace. While the rest of the renegades are dealing with the Aether Hub and trying to take that from the consulate, Jace, Kari, and her monkey are going to actually raid consulate skyships for their ether and try to find other means of doing that. And they're going to get wrapped up in all sorts of other problems, and they're going to eventually have to take on the consulate flagship, the Sky Sovereign, that you might remember from Kaladesh.
So Rishkar Pima Renegade is a good example of, even though we don't have Fabricate in the set, even though that mechanic we decided to put it aside to do some other mechanics, we still wanted you to have new cards to put in your decks with Fabricate. And we were trying to make a cool legendary elf, and we said, okay, here's what we can do. We can make use of +1/+1 technology, so it works all by itself, but you know what? It also plays nicely with your Fabricate cards.
Rishkar is a card that works really well by itself. It comes into play as a 3/3, it gives another creature a counter, and it lets them both tap for mana. But one of the things I love about Aether Revolt is sometimes even unassuming cards that look so powerful on their own are actually combo cards. I especially like playing Rishkar with Nissa, Voice of Zendikar. She gives all your creatures +1/+1 counters, and now they're all tapping for mana. I tried it out once with Animation Module from Kaladesh. That means every time you get a counter, you get more creatures, and then you add more counters to them. That's a lot.
A goal of the design team was to have a cycle of splashy, rare spells that did some kind of cool, kooky thing. And what we came up with, as a placeholder, mind you, was spells that they had their effect, and then they let you cast for free another spell from your hand that costs less mana. We were also simultaneously developing a cycle of legends. The world building team had given us a number of really cool profiles of legendary creatures, and they started to converge. We started to see, wait a minute, what if these were the signature spells of those characters? And we started to design them in pairs that each one then influenced the other one so they could go together and express these characters.
So Tezzeret, he's in a world that values artifice. He is a talented artificer himself, but also a very ambitious one, and also in the employ of Nicol Bolas. And when you combine all of these things, he positions himself to usurp the consulate. This is a continuation of the Kaladesh story, and we see him, his Planeswalker card shows him as the head of the consulate.
So Tezzeret, as you'd expect, is all about artifacts. His +1 gives you artifacts to fill up the battlefield with. His minus lets you get rid of your opponent's creatures, provided you have enough artifacts. Sometimes it'll even pump your own creatures, making them bigger to finish off your opponent. His ultimate, of course, is a throwback to previous Tezzeret's ultimates, in that it turns your artifacts into 5/5 creatures. I especially like this one because it lets you do it every turn. So you get to watch your opponent try and struggle to fight against your army of Ethereum cells that are now 5/5s.
One of the things that's key to this story is that Tezzeret is working for Bolas. But I didn't give anything away here. And we actually thought about reprinting Agent of Bolas, because it was such a perfect example of Tezzeret, Agent of Bolas, why don't we just reprint Agent of Bolas? But what we found was there were so many neat interactions with artifacts we got to do in Kaladesh that we actually kind of wanted to make a new card so we could play some of that up. And the new version of him really got to be, he's not just Tezzeret, he's like Tezzeret on Kaladesh, doing really interesting things with Kaladesh. And so, while Agent of Bolas would have been fun to bring back, I really think we made a cool card that wasn't just Tezzeret, but was Tezzeret here and now.
So Ajani, as we saw in the storyline for Kaladesh, followed Tezzeret here, and has been trying to kind of undermine his authority, trying to find out what he's up to in the service of Nicol Bolas. And so we see his card finally in Aether Revolt, and he's actually going to take the oath here. He's going to team up with the Gatewatch, and he's going to sympathize with their cause to the point that he's willing to join this organization.
Johnny, welcome to the Gatewatch. You have an oath. You're a Planeswalker. You can have a Planeswalker card. Both of them are going to be really powerful.
So Ajani Unyielding. Ajani is here on Kaladesh helping the Renegades overthrow the consulate. His +2 ability looks at 3 cards in your deck and helps you find more permanents to add to the fight. His -2 gets rid of a creature so that yours can get through. And his -9, if you get there, makes your army unstoppable.
When we think about, especially flavor text on the oath cards, because this represents our heroes. We want to capture the essence of what each hero is fighting for on their oath card. And in talking about Ajani, we did go around a number of times with each other, talking about what he is really fighting for, what he needs as a cat, as a Leonin, and what he believes other people he meets need. And that to him is a place that is safe, that they can call their own. And this also sort of echoes his relationship with Elspeth, who was searching for her home. And so it's really meaningful, and we got emotional when we came up with that one.
We don't just have 5 anymore. The Gatewatch goes to 6.